Welcome to Tuckies. My name is Mrs. Ramlal. This video I've prepared for the grade 12s to help them with their June exam preparation. In this video, we'll be looking at the KZN June 2022 paper 1. But before you watch the video, make sure you have the memo and the question paper at hand. Right, this is terminology. And remember, they will give you a term, and then you will write the correct term, matching those statements. Right, 1 to 1. The reproductive strategy involved the laying of eggs. Laying of eggs that can only be ovipary or oviparous. 1 to 2. A condition of the cell where there's only one set of chromosomes that we know is haploid. 1 to 3. The building block or monomer of a nucleic acid, right, that is a nucleotide. 1 to 4. The natural shape of a DNA, that is not a helix, it is a double helix. 1 to 5. The hormone that stimulates milk production, that is, of course, prolactin. 1 to 6. The maintenance of a constant internal environment in the body within narrow limits, of course, that we know is as homeostasis. 1 to 7. An increase in the diameter of blood vessels that increases blood flow. I immediately increase blood flow, that is vasodilation. The process where DNA molecule makes an identical copy of itself, that of course is DNA replication. And the last one, 1 to 9, the structure of the amniotic egg that collects embryonic nitrogenous waste, that is the allantois. Right, 1.3. Indicate whether each of the descriptions in column 1 applies to A only, B only, both A and B or none of the items in column 2. Write A only, B only, both A and B or none next to the question number. 131. The chromosomes arrange at the equator in pairs. Now, in pairs, when they arrange at the equator, immediately equator, that's when the chromosomes are in the middle, so meta means middle, and when they're in pairs, it's meiosis 1, so your answer is A only. Right. 132. What occurs in a DNA molecule? Does cytosine pair with adenine? No. Does guanine pair with thymine? No. So your answer is none. We know adenine pairs with thymine. And then 133, the location of the DNA we know is found in the nucleus and the mitochondria. So your answer is both A and B. 1.4. The diagram below shows a part of a process during meiosis. 141. Identify parts A. Part A is pointing to the long structure, so it's the chromatid. Identify part B. Can you see it's the round structure found in the center, hence its name, centromere. 142. Name the process taking place in the diagram above. Of course we know. This is crossing over. 143. State the phase of meiosis during which the process mentioned in 142, which is crossing over, occurs. So when does crossing over? In which phase? Prophase 1. 144. Point C. Can you see point C is the place where the two chromatids touch, and that is the chiasma. Then 145. Give one significance of point C. That is the place at the chiasma, that's where the genetic material is exchanged. Or it's a point of contact, attachment, or overlap of the chromatids. And then 146. What's the collective name for P and Q? That's called a homologous pair. 151. In Chartreux cats, the allele for purple, big P, is dominant over the allele for black eyes, small p. The allele for rough fur, big R, is dominant over the allele for smooth fur, small r. Cat A is heterozygous for both eye color and fur texture, was crossed with a cat B, which had smooth fur with black eyes. 151. Give the genotype of cat A. Now, cat A was heterozygous for both eye and fur color. So, heterozygous meaning it will be big P, small p, and then big R, small r. 151. Give the genotype of cat B. Cat B had smooth fur and black eyes. So, and of course, that can only be homozygous, so small p, small r. 152. Give all the possible genotypes of the gametes of cat A. Now, cat A is heterozygous, so this is how I work out my gametes. I write big P, big R, small r. I separate them and then I use for. So the first two, big P, big R. The outer two, big P, small r. The inner two, write as is, small p, big R. And the last two, small p, big R. That's how I write the gametes. Okay. 153. State the phenotype of an offspring that has the phenotype small p, big R, small r, of course. If you look at your keys, that is a cat with black eyes and rough fur. State the phenotype, which is physical appearance of an offspring with the genotype big P, big R, small r. That's easy again. Look at the key, purple eyes with rough fur. Right. When a cat B was crossed with cat C, all the offspring had purple eyes and rough fur. Use the information and write down the genotype of cat C. Now here you'll have to cross many different combinations, but we know once you practice over and over and over, cat C has to be big P, and small r, to get this offspring. So here I've drawn small p, small r, and then we don't know what C is, but all the offspring was big P, big R, small r. Now that's heterozygous, so, and here B is homozygous recessive, so of course C must be big P, small r. Okay. 2.1. The diagram below shows part of the process of protein synthesis. Right. Identify A, the collective name for nitrogenous base triplets on molecule D. Right. Can you see molecule D is the tRNA? So the collective name for the nitrogenous base on molecule D on the tRNA is, of course, anticodon. Identify monomer E. The tRNA carries what? What monomer is that? An amino acid. And identify process F. Process F, here, very important. That's translation taking place on the ribosome. 212. State the significance of molecule A in protein synthesis. Now, they're asking you the significance of a DNA in protein synthesis. So, the DNA code carries the coded message or allows for the formation of mRNA for the formation of a specific protein. So they only wanted it for 1 mark. You could have written any answer here. 213. Identify nitrogenous base 1 and 2 respectively as found in the molecule D. So let's look at 1. Now, opposite U, and that's a tRNA, opposite U, that'll be obviously A. Okay? And then they want 2, opposite C, what will that be? G. So writing that down for you so it's easy to see. Then 214. Describe the process 1 which form molecule B. Process 1 is transcription. It helped to form the mRNA. What do you write? So they're asking you transcription. Make sure you learn this from the exam guidelines. The double helix DNA unwinds. The double stranded DNA unzips, so the weak hydrogen bonds break to form 2 separate strands. 1 strand is used as a template to form the mRNA. Using free RNA nucleotides from the nucleoplasm, the mRNA is complemented to the DNA, and the mRNA now has the coded message for protein synthesis. 215. The table below shows the amino acids that correspond to the different DNA codes. Write down the correct sequence of amino acids coded for by X, Y, and Z. So let's go back. X is UCA. So let's write that down. X, UCA. Y is AGG. And Z is UAC. So I've written the 3 codons. Now, can you see this table is the DNA, codes for the DNA. So now what we have to do is convert this mRNA into DNA. So opposite U will be, obviously, uracil replaces thymine, so it will be AGT. What's the amino acid? Glycine, so we write that first. Then opposite A will be T, C, C, and that goes for methionine. You write that second. This is the correct order you must write it in. And the last one will be, of course, opposite U, A, T, G, agony. So that's how we work it out. And you must write it in this correct order. Right, that's your question 215. 2.2. A group of grade 12 learners conducted an investigation to determine the frequency of tongue rolling ability amongst boys and girls in their school. The procedure was as follows. They asked 550 learners to participate. They divided the group into 275 boys and 275 girls. They asked them to roll their tongues. They counted and recorded the number of rollers and non-rollers. The same person counted the rollers and the non-rollers. The results of the learners' investigation are shown in the graph. So in the graph, you can see the number of boys and girls who are tongue rollers and non-tongue rollers. Blue is the boys, white is the girls. There you have number of learners and the tongue rolling ability. 221. State 3 steps that must be considered when planning this investigation. A very nice question. They obviously had to decide on the sample size, decide on the sample selection, get permission from the school to conduct the investigation, decide on the appropriate time, day, venue to conduct the investigation, decide how they're going to record the results of the investigation, and most importantly, ask for permission from the participants. 222. Describe 2 ways by which the learners ensured validity of the investigation. Ensured means it's already in this passage that you must take. Can you see? The same person counted the boys and the girls, and what do they have? The equal number of boys and girls, as you can see. 223. State why the learners used 550 learners and not less to ensure that the experiment, the investigation, was reliable. So to increase the reliability of the investigation. 224. Use the data in the graph to draw a table that shows the results they obtained. So using the information here, you draw your table. So your table would have had rollers and non-rollers, boys and girls. And from the results, 260, 220, 15, 55. You got marks for the column headings, the row headings, and the data was correct. Not too bad. 2.3. The flow diagram below shows the response of an endocrine gland to changes in the level of water in the blood. Right, 231. Name the endocrine gland that's responsible to changes in the water level in the blood. So that we know is the pituitary gland or the hypophysis. 231. Identify hormone 1. Now, which hormone is detected that causes a detection by the endocrine gland and there will be change in the hormone 1? Obviously, what controls water in the blood? ADH. So hormone 1 is ADH. 233. State change B as shown in the flow diagram. So here is where we're looking. So they want to know the blood level is too high. It's detected by the endocrine gland. So what's change B? What will happen? Then the amount of ADH will decrease. 234. Which response 1 or 2 will occur after drinking a lot of water? Of course, it will be response 2. And 235. Describe how the response 1 works. Now this is when the normal levels of water is low and it's picked up at the endocrine gland. So what will happen? There will be an increase in ADH. This will increase the permeability of the distal convoluted tubule or of the nephron. More water leaves the nephron into the medulla or into the tissue fluid and even enters the blood, which will increase the blood water level and bring it back to normal. 2.4. Describe how errors that occur during meiosis may lead to Down syndrome. Right, nice question. This is for 5 marks. During anaphase 1 or 2, the chromosomes or chromatid on chromosome pair 21 fails to separate, or you can say non-disjunction occurs, resulting in a gamete with an extra chromosome on pair 21. When this gamete fuses with a normal gamete with 23 chromosomes, it will result in a zygote with 47 chromosomes, or 3 chromosomes on the 21st chromosome, leading to Down syndrome. Right, 2.5. The diagram below shows a reflex arc. 251. Identify part A. Part A is very important. Can you see what it's pointing to? That is actually a cell body in the ganglion. Because remember, a ganglion is because of all the cell bodies it contains. That's why it's swollen. Identify B, neuron F. Neuron F, can you see it's coming from the receptor? It's a sensory or afferent neuron. What is structure E? Of course, you can see it's coming from the motor neuron. So that is the effector or the muscle. 252. State one function of each of the following. Neuron B. Neuron B is, of course, the connector neuron. So what does it do? Transmits impulses or connects the sensory neuron to the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron to the motor neuron. State one function of the gap at C. That gap at C is obviously the synapse. And what does the synapse do? Ensures the impulse travels in one direction only. And 253. Use letters B, D, F. Give the sequence in which the neurons are involved from the time a stimulus is received until a response takes place. So it will obviously be F first, then B, and then of course D. So F, B, D. That's the correct sequence. 2.6. Describe the negative feedback that occurs when thyroxine level is high in the blood. So, pituitary gland will be stimulated to secrete less TSH. It will stimulate the thyroid gland to secrete less thyroxine in the blood. So the thyroxine levels will decrease, bringing back to normal. 3.1. The diagram below shows part of the human reproductive system. 3.1. Identify part C. C, as you can see, it's a canal. So that is definitely the vaginal canal or vagina. Identify part D. That is the opening to the uterus. So that's the cervix. 3.1.2. Name the structure or organ formed by part B from implantation until birth. So what's that structure that's formed by part B? Of course, from implantation until birth, that's the placenta. 3.1.3. Explain the consequence of part A was surgically cut and tied. That's the fallopian tube. So, it says here, the sperm will not reach the ovum, fertilization will not occur, resulting in infertility. That's one option. Or can you see it's only cut on one side? So the other fallopian tube will allow sperm to meet the ovum, and so fertilization can still occur on this side. So two possible answers for this question. 3.1.4. Describe oogenesis as it will occur in part E. So again, you learn this from the exam guidelines. Diploid cells in the ovary undergo mitosis to form numerous follicles. At the onset of puberty and under the influence of FSH, one cell inside a follicle enlarges and undergoes meiosis. Of the 4 cells produced, only one survives to form a mature haploid ovum. 3.2. Read the extract below. Menorrhagia is a medical term for menstrual periods with abnormally heavy or prolonged bleeding. Although heavy menstrual bleeding is a common concern, most women don't experience blood loss severe enough to be defined as menorrhagia. Soaking through one or more sanitary pads every hour for several consecutive hours, bleeding for longer than a week, restricting daily activities due to heavy menstrual flow are some of the symptoms. One of the causes is when your ovaries don't release an egg during the menstrual cycle, so your body doesn't produce the hormone progesterone as it would during a normal menstrual cycle. 3.2.1. Give 2 symptoms of menorrhagia from the passage, and that you can see already. Bleeding for longer than a week and heavy menstrual flow. 3.2.2. Explain why this condition causes non-production of progesterone. So, what happens is ovulation doesn't occur. The ovum is not released, so can the corpus luteum be formed? No. Hence, there will be no progesterone formed. 3.2.3. Explain how the symptoms mentioned in the passage may lead to tiredness in a female with menorrhagia. Okay, there's going to be more blood lost within a short space of time. It will lead to poor oxygen supply, decreasing the rate of cell respiration, and the woman will have less energy and be tired. Right. 3.3. The diagram below shows part of a human brain. Identify part B. Part B is the corpus callosum. Make sure you know how to spell that correctly. Identify part C. Part C is, of course, a little small gland. That's the pituitary gland. Identify part F. That's easy. That's the cerebellum. 332. Explain why damage to part D could lead to immediate death. Now, if there's a damage to the medulla oblongata, breathing and heartbeat will stop. It will cause a lack of oxygen to all the cells. And that's why the person will die immediately. 333. State two functions of part A. Part A is the cerebrum. So what does the cerebrum do? Controls voluntary actions, interprets sensations, and is responsible for higher thought processes such as memory and judgment. And 334. Write on the letter name of the part that's the center for reflex actions that we know is E, and that's the spinal cord. 3.4. Describe the role of the macula in maintaining balance for 4 marks. Here, the memo, you can have any of these 4 answers. There will be a change in the position of the head, which causes the endolymph to move, which stimulates the macula in the ossiculus and the utriculus. The macula converts the stimulus into an impulse, which travels via the auditory nerve to the cerebellum. The cerebellum sends impulses to the skeletal muscles to restore balance. You should have this answer written down, so when you ask this, you can just memorize it and give it back to and write it back into the exams. 3.5. Dronan had been sitting in a dark room for over an hour when lights come on. I had been sitting in a dark room for over an hour when lights came on. 351. Name the photoreceptors in the eye that are sensitive to dim light. That's easy. Right. And then 352. Describe the pupillary mechanism under bright light. So under bright light, what happens? The circular muscles contract, the radial muscles relax, the pupil constricts to let less light in, and the objects can be seen clearly. Right. 3.6. In beef cattle of European ancestry, the trait of having no horns or having horns is determined by one pair of genes. The genes for having no horns, big P, is dominant to the genes for having horns, small p. The pedigree diagram below shows horn inheritance among beef cattle. 361. From the pedigree diagram above, how many bulls are there without horns? Now, without horns, bulls, it's 1, 2, 3. Right. From the pedigree diagram above, how many individuals are homozygous? Now, homozygous is obviously with horns. So as we can see from the passage, so 1, 2, 3, your answer is 3 as well. 362. Name the type of dominance shown in the pedigree diagram. This, of course, is complete dominance. 363. They ask you to explain your answer. So when there's 2 different alleles inherited, the dominant allele controls the phenotype, masking over the effect of the recessive allele. 364. Identify the possible genotype for individual 2. Now, based on the children, there are children that have small p, and possibly big P, small p as well. So it's heterozygous. So 2 could either be, again, big P, small p, heterozygous, or small p, to get these children here. So you always look at the children before when they ask you a question like this. Right. 365. Write on the number of the individuals that is heterozygous in second generation. There's the second generation. And of course, it can only be individual 4. And then 366 represent a genetic cross between individuals 5 and 7 to show the percentage chance of producing a calf with horns. So here, 7 can only be heterozygous and 5 is small p. As you can see here, there's 5 and there's 7 is heterozygous, and you do your whole setup. So I'll look at the bottom part. P1, phenotype, bull with horns, cow without horns. Genotype, small p, big P, small p. Meiosis, fertilization, F1, and there you have your Punnett square. There's your answers. 2 horned calves, 2 calves without horns. So P1 and F1, meiosis and fertilization, your chance is 50% chance. That was a very good paper. Grade 12s, I hope you learned a lot from watching this video. Join me and watch all my other videos as well.